Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This committee's investigation has made plain that drug wholesale distributors flooded areas of West Virginia and other parts of the country with massive amounts of opioids. This has fed into the public health epidemic that is costing us at least $8 billion per year nationwide and costing lives, 116 deaths every day. We focused on West Virginia because it has the highest opioid death rate in the country. Mr. Barrett, your company, Cardinal, shipped 1.5 million opioid pills each year from 2009 to 2011 to a single pharmacy, Family Discount, in the small town of Mount Gay. That is an average of about 4,000 pills per day. At the subcommittee's March 20th hearing, DEA testified that that amount shipped to that single pharmacy was indeed excessive. And this was after Cardinal had been sanctioned by the DOJ through a settlement agreement for not following the law. Mr. Barrett, you've said that the wholesalers don't control demand, but clearly you have a responsibility under the law to highlight and flag these suspicious orders. How did Cardinal estimate what was appropriate for a given pharmacy?
Congresswoman, thank you for your question. I think our organization recognizes it as a dual responsibility. One is to provide medicine to a system requiring it as prescribed, and the other is to do what we can to prevent those from falling in the wrong hands. We've evolved over the years. We've become more attuned to the changes.
This kept happening even after DOJ had warned you and you had accepted responsibility and said you would do a better job. In more recent years, this pharmacy's total purchases of these drugs declined dramatically. In 2015 and 2016, it was down to about 500,000 pills, and that wasn't just from Cardinal, that was from everyone, from all distributors. That was but a fraction of what Cardinal alone had shipped them in earlier years. So isn't this a clear reflection that that was not the medical need in the community? The amount being shipped didn't reflect what could have been appropriately used in rural West Virginia, especially after DOJ had already warned you.
Congressman, let me make 2 points about that, if I may. One is I've acknowledged earlier that I had wished that we had moved earlier to stop shipping that pharmacy, which we have many years ago. Second, I think the evolution was of our looking at a system that was focused on the legitimacy of a pharmacy, which, by the way, is still in business, and the awareness of something happening in the system, which was a bad doctor. And
So
we should have moved more quickly on that.
I'd now like to turn to McKesson. Mr. Cameron, your company, McKesson, distributed over 1.8 million opioid pills each year in 2006 and 2007 to Family Discount Pharmacy. That's an average of about 5,000 pills per day in this rural small town. Based upon a figure cited by DEA, McKesson shipped Family Discount roughly 6 times the amount of hydrocodone that an average pharmacy in rural West Virginia would have received during those years. So, similar question to you. McKesson delivered millions of pills to the single pharmacy. Clearly that's not reasonable, and you should have flagged that and stopped that right away. Why didn't you?
We did terminate the relationship with that pharmacy, and like Mr. Barrett, I would have liked to have made a decision faster. That's the answer. We caught a bad pharmacy and shut it down.
And as I mentioned, this pharmacy's total purchases of oxycodone and hydrocodone dropped dramatically, but that wasn't until 2015, 2016, and that means the amount of opioids your company alone shipped back in 2006 was over 3 times as much as the pharmacy got from all distributors in 2016. Now, in your testimony, you pointed to, well, overprescribing by doctors, maybe the DEA should have done more, pharmacy bad actors, but you can't reasonably claim that this pharmacy's dispensing filled the medical need, or, I mean, it took you years to respond. Why was that?
Well, I can't comment on the medical need, Congresswoman. What I can say is that today in our systems, any shipment that was outside those boundaries would never have happened. It would have been shut down and reported immediately.
Why didn't you address, given that this community was ravaged by opioid deaths and addiction, and the town of Williamson was even nicknamed Pillmanson, don't you take responsibility for what was happening back then? Was it that the profit motive simply overcame you saw that paying the penalties under settlement agreements was a cost worth paying because you were making so much money?
Congresswoman, we take all of these matters very seriously. Any settlement with a regulator, we take very seriously. Our systems have evolved, and we continue to invest heavily to make sure that situations like that don't happen again.
I think this was the opposite of due diligence that was required under the law, and we're going to be looking for greater accountability. Thank you, and I yield back.